Welcome to the Art and Science of Complex Sales. This is the Leadership Quarter. This is a podcast for revenue, sales, and go-to-market leaders and practitioners that is focused on bringing you insights from the best and brightest the world has to offer. The Leadership Quarter is focused on asking the critical questions. How do we develop and empower sales leaders to build strong cultures and teams to hit our growth goals? Experts from around the world give their experiences and opinions on this critical aspect of sales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on your favorite podcast platform. And let's dive in to introducing today's guests. He started out selling cookies to his schoolmates at lunch, and then quickly progressed his business to selling farm fresh eggs to their families after school. Fast forward a number of years, and he was Chief Commercial Officer for a division of a Fortune 500 company. Today, he's the leader of a successful and thriving sales transformation business, helping others up their games and drive strategic, scalable sales success. Say that 5 times fast. Anyhow, join me today as we welcome Juan Pablo Urruchua to the program, JP for short. We cover his journey from young entrepreneur to corporate and then back to entrepreneurship, building sales leaders, coaches, and more. Let's get started with JP.
Hello, Mr. Fuller.
JP, welcome to the Art and Science of Complex Sales. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a Wednesday, although it feels like a Thursday for some strange reason. Coming to a weekend, and that's always nice when you're more than halfway through the week.
Yes. And what part of the world are you coming to us from right now?
The beautiful, populated Mexico City.
Mexico City. So is it gorgeous down there? I mean, right now, is it, or are you getting into it's really just freaking hot stage?
Well, for us in Mexico City, we're not accustomed to these levels of temperature. So we're not prepared. So nobody has air conditioning, and the temperature is hitting the 90s some days. And that's an interesting place to be. Although I'm in the surrounding hilltops of Mexico City, so I don't get to those temperatures, probably low 80s.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I don't even need to convert from Celsius. You just spoke my language. Most of the time I'm sitting here converting and being like, okay, 15, 12.
I wanted to give you the Fahrenheit directly, so we weren't trying to do the conversion. So I lived in the US for 3 years, so I have some equivalences in my head about temperatures without having to do the math.
Well, I appreciate you being on today. I'm really pumped about this. We've been working together for quite a while now, and I love the work you're doing. And why don't we start off with a pretty standard question relative to this? Is how the heck did you get into sales and sales coaching and transformation?
Well, how did I get into sales? I'll answer that first, and then I'll answer the second. I've always had a sales vein since I was much younger. I used to sell cookies, bake cookies, and sell them in primary school. And then I used to...
what kind of cookies?
I used to grab my mom's recipe book and just make different types of cookies and go to school, sell them at lunch.
So were you a good salesperson, or were they good cookies?
Yeah, they're probably better cookies. They're probably better cookies than me as a salesperson, because I was a very nascent salesperson at that point. I was, 12, 13 years old. Then I sold eggs. Right? Eggs. So I bought eggs wholesale and sold them retail to the moms of my schoolmates at the end of the school day, which is kind of weird business model. That started growing, and then I had to take a decision whether I integrated vertically and put a chicken farm in my house, and my father, put a stop to that pretty quickly. So my dreams of becoming an egg producer were stumped. I could have been the next Pilgrim's Pride. You never know.
And then turn into Tyson Chicken. I mean, it could have been one of those things.
Yeah, this is interesting. In high school, I started selling. I was a son of a diplomat, so I had access to the duty-free stores just because I was a diplomat. So I used to buy liquor and cigarettes and sell them at school. Right.
In high school?
Yeah, that wasn't a very good business model from ethics perspective, so to speak. Very profitable, but it got me into trouble eventually. So yeah, I've always had this vein of selling. Fast forward many more years, and so early in my professional career, I would say 6 years into working, I was offered a sales job without me asking for it. So they said, well, do you want to go into sales or you want to go into credit analysis? And I said, well, the sales thing sounds interesting. Let's do that. And that's how I professionally got into sales. And then I was in sales for sales management, doing sales myself as an individual contributor for many years. And then a sales management, sales leader, commercial excellence for many other years. So a total that's of say probably almost 25 years in sales.
You did both down home entrepreneurship and then big corporate.
Exactly, the two extremes.
Yeah,
yeah.
So because that's interesting. When I first asked you that question around sales, you connected it directly to that entrepreneurship spirit. So how do you define sales?
Yeah, I should have Googled that before we came online. I'm sure there was.
You can always chat GPT it real quick. I mean, it shouldn't be a trick question. Like,
No, it isn't a trick question. Sales is the exchange of value between two people or more.
Perfect. Yeah. So you can do that across everything. And how did you so you started as an entrepreneur individually, and that's awesome. Selling cookies, selling eggs, the next Tyson chicken magnet, to going into big corporate now you're back in entrepreneurship and driving to help other people sell. How did you make that decision to go there?
Well, it's a combination of two things. I would be a little bit myopic if I said the decision was 100% me. I was helped to make the decision. So I was pushed out of the corporate world, as many of us are at some point in our career, later in our career. And I did have in the back of my head a plan, so to speak, or it was an idea more than a plan of doing sales, coaching, and leadership and management as an entrepreneur. I just didn't know how I would actually do it. I just thought it was a good idea. So when the corporate world decided that my time was up, and it was on the onset of COVID, I would say I was forced to pursue my dream.
You got that quick nudge or the swift kick in the butt, one of the two.
Yeah. When you're sometimes when you're in the corporate world, you're in a golden cage. I was definitely in a golden cage. I wouldn't have quit that job in my right mind, even despite the fact that I wasn't enjoying that particular job anymore because of many reasons. But I was getting paid very handsomely, and stepping away from that would have been very difficult to make that decision on my own, to be honest. So it was made for me.
Man, well, you're turning that. Hey, my daughter's got a lemonade stand out there. It's the summer right now. You're turning those lemons into lemonade is one way to say it. But yeah. I mean, just I found that's actually not too uncommon, where it's just like, okay, we need that extra push to get into this.
Yeah.
But why stay in sales? Why did you say, okay, great, it's time to, I'm on my way out the corporate world. What attracted you to
there's a universe of options. That's a great question. I think I have a very strong finance background, and there was potentially two easy avenues, or two more than easy avenues, two common sense avenues for me to take. Either continue pursuing as an entrepreneur my finance background, so leasing, lending, put a fintech together, whatever, or leveraging everything I'd learned about sales management, high performance sales teams. And I found the latter more enticing because it's about changing and transforming companies rather than just selling them something. So I saw it also as, in this part of the stage of my life, as a legacy. And I thought, and I think it still holds true, there's a huge opportunity in Mexico for middle market companies who lack just, they're unaware of what they're unaware of. Right? Lack of awareness in terms of their areas of opportunity and how to improve their sales, go-to-market strategies, sales efforts, etc. in the B2B space.
Well, and I know one of the core things that you do, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, but a couple of the core things you do are essentially bringing a lot of structure to chaos and then empowering leadership, right? And so there's always a market for that in sales and sales leadership and management. Let's talk about the first, bringing that structure to chaos. Like, when you engage with a company, what are how do you start to look at and diagnose what the heck's going on with a sales culture?
Well, it starts with the discovery, actually. So when you have the first conversation and you start trying to see whether you fit with them or them with you, you start, uncovering the chaos, right? The size of the chaos, and whether you are a good fit to fix or try to fix that chaos. To be honest, I have through this journey made a couple of mistakes in deciding to help a company when there were some elements in their structure or strategy that were not necessarily in place that were key for our product and service to be more effective. That's a point of consideration. The second is diagnose the sales team. So we use Objective Management Group, which you know of as a tool to diagnose the sales team and determine how big of a gap they are versus, I would say, high performance sales teams. And that's a lot about giving them clarity. So if you want to lose weight, the first thing that you have to usually do is put yourself on the back, right?
On the scale.
On the scale, right? That's a good starting point, right?
Put yourself in the mirror. Put yourself on the scale. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Take the before photo, right?
Are you saying something about me, JP? Is this an intervention? I have been eating a lot of salt and vinegar lately. Salt and vinegar chips. Amazing.
Yeah. And I think sales teams usually underestimate the power of setting a baseline, which is, diagnosing yourself, where you are at today, what you actually have to improve, because you take the guesswork out of, where we are currently. I guess sales leaders, CEOs have usually a pretty good hypothesis of where their areas of opportunity are in terms of their sales capabilities, but a good diagnosis eliminates any guesswork and really puts clarity on that. The second is help them with a sales plan. A sales plan is not necessarily having a sales quota. A sales quota is part of a sales plan, right? But even how to establish a sales quota has a science to it. So giving clarity about what markets, decision makers, strategic messaging.
I was about to ask you if I could interrupt for a second, but then I just did. So why ask?
That's okay.
Yeah. So, but the sales plan. So how often, this is something I find really fascinating. How often do you go into sales organizations and they're operating with literally no plan or small components of strategies that they think constitute a plan?
Too often. I mean, obviously, the larger the organization, usually there is a correlation between, let's say, the size of the company and their, I would say, level of commercial maturity.
Mm-hmm.
And the smaller the company, the lower level of sales maturity that they have. So, but I've been surprised of, let's say, middle-sized companies with, 7 to 15 reps that lack a lot of that structure, basic, I would say, sales 101 stuff, right? And I think it's because of the way they've grown organically. It's natural that if you don't have such a sales structure background, that you'll stumble through the dark and make things work. But if you want to take your sales organization to the next level, putting some clarity in place, I think that's the first place to start.
Well, you have a formula, and I forget what that formula is. It's clarity plus
times activity times effectiveness.
Okay,
Yeah.
Clarity times what?
Activity.
Yep.
Times effectiveness.
Equals effectiveness. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I love that formula. So establishing that clarity, and that's how often do you need to work with, and let's go over to the leadership side of it. Like, how often do you then need to work with companies to help them establish truly what is good? I mean, what is good sales leadership? I mean, a sales plan is a part of that. But how do you work with leaders to really help them up their game? And I'll just leave it at that.
Very often it's a bigger opportunity. Sales team is an ecosystem, and companies are usually very hyper focused on sales reps, SDRs, BDRs, BDMs, AEs, whatever title you want to or function you want to assign to them. And they think that throwing bodies there, putting bodies there, or improving that part of the organization is what's going to move the needle the most. I realized, even in the corporate world, that the largest impact on a sales team is the manager or the sales leader. That's where the largest impact is. And usually companies assume that the manager is doing their job, that they're doing it as good as they can, that they're doing it effectively. They're usually sales managers were the great salesperson, and they don't necessarily have the skills, the preparation, the methodology, the operating rhythm, the competencies to manage a team effectively. So, and not because of any fault of their own. They're just they weren't prepared for it. And they're figuring it out as they go. I call it the Montessori way, right? And some of them, through the Montessori School of Business, they figured out along the way, and they eat a
lot of glue on the playground and and roll. Sorry. I have a Montessori school around the corner from us. That just image in my head. Like, I love that. I love the idea of it, but the image in my head is a kid sitting on the playground eating glue. I don't know why.
And my son went to a Montessori school, so I thoroughly respect their methodology, to be honest. But in the sales world, where you need a little bit of structure and cadence and organization, sales managers are more than 50% of the equation. So if you focus more on sales management than sales reps, you had to make a decision between the two. I would focus more on sales management because it has a larger impact on your sales organization. Definitely.
And so, and let's look at, let's divide up kind of that idea of leadership and management. And when we talk about leadership as kind of being able to set the vision and enact change, and then management is to manage the systems that drive change. Mm-hmm. Where are you finding bigger gaps today, or do you find gaps in both? The ability to set vision and help prepare people for change, or the ability to functionally operate a system and KPIs and manage the people within it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. I think the biggest gap is in terms of leadership than management. management capabilities, such as holding people accountable, motivating, which is part of leadership, you could argue, right? Motivating leadership, management, probably on both sides of the fence. But if you consider leadership more of a strategic role, setting the vision and leading by example and just being a leader, I think that's where the largest opportunity is. And when I was a commercial leader, and I wanted team leaders, so people who manage the sales reps, the hardest, I would have a very, very hard time trying to find people who could actually set a vision, set a strategy, and set a plan to execute that strategy. It was easier to find people you could tell them what the strategy was and what the steps to execute that strategy was, and they would manage to that effectively. But it was very hard to find people who had both the leadership strategy component and the management component, and developing those skills that takes a while. That takes, I think it's a different mindset. It's, I would say it's the old view or the old example, which is like the looking at the forest versus looking at the branches, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a perfect example of the difference between the two. And jumping between the two focuses, so to speak, is a competency that's very hard to find.
Yeah. That is absolutely. I think that's the competency that's critical, and I know you work real hard to help people with. We go back to that Montessori school real quick example, because one of the things that I just want to see if you've experienced this as well. But one of the things I've experienced there is the sales managers and leaders that have worked their way up through that Montessori school, right? They've had to figure it out.
Yeah.
They've been given all the pieces parts, and then they figure out the puzzle, and then they put it together, right? They have to figure it out. I find there's, and maybe this is me oversimplifying, but two kind of things. There's the people that they figured it out, and they've just set on their way and said, this is the way, and I know what's best for the organization. And then there's the people that have figured it out and say, yeah, I know I've cobbled this together, but man, I can use some help. And I want to learn. So I kind of categorize these into the defenders and the learners, right? Do you find that when you go into organizations, you find like those category people that are just all they want to do is defend what they have in place? And how do you work with them versus the people that all they want to do, they're absolutely willing to take in and figure stuff out?
Oh my God. I mean, that's the reason I was late for this call was actually because I'm working with a company that the sales leader doesn't recognize that he needs help. He doesn't recognize that he can do things differently. It's his way. I would say, I think that age has associated with their ability to change. I think that's a self-limiting belief. I think at any age, you should be able to be flexible, adaptable, change, and learn. And this person is not open to change, right? And in his organization, there's a sales manager who is open, 100% eager to learn new things. And they are like eager to the next session and implementing new things, and they want to try new things out. And it's a mindset issue. It's completely a mindset issue. And if a person is not coachable, in behind door number, A, it's very difficult for that person to take their organization to the next level, to be honest. So, I mean, CEOs in that regard will have to make a decision on whether that person should continue to be part of the company going forward or in another capacity, because they're not going to be helping the company change. And right now, if there's any constant, and it's been true for the last 5 years more so than ever is the only constant is change. Right.
Yeah. And you said mindset, like I think 4 or 5 times during the course of this. I think that becomes when we talk about leadership and salespeople and leading, that acceptance of that continual change. That's a tough mindset to get into. I know for myself it is. But how do you help people? Because there's always a balance. I've always said sales is I've said for the past 10 years that sales is the biggest balance that you have of what have you done for me lately versus, what you invest to be able to get to results. So you need to invest this. Most sales companies, B2B, you have to invest a year to year and a half to get good at something before you and to build your pipeline and grow before you can then continually deliver results. But those results are all based on the habits of what you did previously, right?
Yeah.
And so taking that back to mindset, like how do you help people? Is it through coach? Develop that mindset of, okay, the new normal is the new normal. The new normal is change. We need to do it continuously, but you also need to have a really good system by which you execute. What is the balance between continual change and the mindset needed for it, as well as systems and methodology, which is incredibly important, and being able to keep that stable?
Is mindset coachable? Yes, as long as the person is coachable. So, there's the objective management tool again, and I'm not selling OMG here, but I'm just making reference to it, is does measure coachability of a salesperson or sales manager. If the person is not coachable, it's very hard to coach them through mindset issues, or nowadays, or they've been talking about a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, and it's exactly related to that. A fixed mindset won't allow you to be open to new ideas. It won't allow you to recognize that there's areas of improvement on yourself or your team, and will make any kind of change very difficult. Whilst a growth mindset, on the other hand, you're open to change. I was talking to an HR consultant yesterday, and she said something that resonated with me. She said the 2 most important competencies in this changing times of AI, right? We were talking about, the conference was about AI. What is curiosity and adaptability?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I think you said that better than everything in my question. Like when we get to the heart of it, those are the only 2 things that continue to drive us forward. Is being systematically adaptable and systematically curious.
Exactly. I mean, how do you connect that to a methodology? How do you connect that to a cadence? Well, the cadence and structure and methodology give structure to the sales team in order to be organized. But it will give curiosity and adaptability a space to grow within that structure, because you still need some kind of structure to, maintain your eye on KPIs and revenue and growth. But they're not at odds with each other. I think they complement each other pretty well, actually.
So JP, I thank you so much for this and diving in on leadership, management, structure, all of the above. What are some of the things? What are some final thoughts that you have that you can give the audience today relative to the world of sales and the things they should be doing to continually improve?
Well, I think I would answer that in two ways, because I'll oversimplify. The sales is divided in sales reps and sales managers, right? Or sales leadership and sales sales reps. So in terms of sales reps, keep an open mind regarding how to do things differently. Right now, the world is changing very rapidly, and sometimes that feels scary in terms of new things that are coming along the market. And I think you have to be willing to take different bets and try different things and not stick to your old way of doing things. So keep an open mind. And some things will work, some things will stick, and some won't. But the only way to find out is trying things out. And the other one for managers is don't forget that it's all about people. And that's something I forget because I'm a CD or a DC in the DISC profile. So I'm very task oriented, very results oriented. I have to be forcing myself to remind myself that at the end of the day, sales is about people. And as humans, we have aspirations and dreams and our own personal problems and our own personal journey to go through. And as managers, we have to be very cognizant of that. We have to be connected to our sales reps in a personal way. We have all the methodology and all the structure in the world and all the cadence and the KPIs, but at the end, we're people. And we should never forget that.
That's very wise, and I truly appreciate that. So, JP, how do people connect with you if they want to get in touch?
That's an interesting question because this is a podcast, and I was going to say scan my QR code. Well, that's not works. Yeah, so just go into the SalesStar website, www.salesstar.com. There's a specific landing page for Mexico, or you can contact me at my email at Juan, that's JUAN, .Urruchua, that's a mouthful, URRUCHUA, at SalesStar.com.
Fantastic. All right. Are you on LinkedIn as well?
Oh, I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's okay. One of my to-dos this year was to be more active on LinkedIn. Probably spending too much time there.
No, I think you're doing great there, actually. I've been following you lately. You got some really good stuff. So LinkedIn, email, SalesStar.com. Awesome. Well, with that, we'll wrap it up for today. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Art and Science of Complex Sales. Make sure that you subscribe, you like, and keep shining bright out there. Keep selling, getting after it, and we will talk to you very soon.
Thank you, Paul, for your invitation. Look forward to talking to you soon again.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the Art and Science of Complex Sales. Please take a moment, like, subscribe, share this podcast on all your favorite platforms, and let's get the word out. This podcast is proud to be brought to you by Membrain.com. We are the world's top B2B sales platform. And in the world of B2B sales, with everything from prospecting to business acquisition to managing complex growth, Membrain has the right size technology for your sales team. Our latest innovation, the Coaching Cockpit, empowers your leaders, managers, and team with the information and tools they need to take their skills to the next level and to take advantage of the exponential power of effective sales coaching. With our technology and the top team of sales partners around the world, Membrain is helping to achieve our driving vision. This is, quite simply, elevating the sales profession. To learn more, find us at www.membrain.com. That is MEMBRAIN.com, or contact us via email at sales@membrain.com. Keep shining bright and have a wonderful day.